Alrighty. Well, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening for folks who might be watching this after the fact. My name is Erin Satterwhite David. I use she, hers pronouns, and I'm very excited to welcome you all to Membership Mondays. And we will be focusing today on all of our standing committees. Before we get into discussing a bit about the committees, I have a couple of wonderful folks on the call with us who will be answering your questions today and will be kind of supporting throughout this presentation. And so I wanted to make sure that they had time to introduce themselves. I did also want to introduce someone who is going to be on the call who may not be talking much, but is one of our yeah, she just popped on. But is one of our our lovely staff members. And so I just wanted to also give her a chance to introduce herself if she'd like to, but she's just on to observe. So before I jump in, I actually jumped the gun a bit. But again, my name is Erin Satterwhite David. I am the Assistant Director for Membership here at ASH. And I am coming in from the ancestral homelands of the Caracana and the Calahushan tribes in the space that are known as Sugarland, Texas. And so I wanted to also go on ahead. I'll probably pass it over to Briante Meeks, who is our staff member, and then I will quickly introduce our two panelists for today. So Briante, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, hope your afternoon is going well. My name is Briante. I use she and her pronouns, and I am ASH's Administrative and Membership Services Coordinator. I am coming to you from Portland, Oregon, which is the ancestral homelands of the Walla Walla, the Cayuse, the Umatilla, and the Atfalati.
Thank you. So next, I'm going to pass it over to Amy Collinsworth, who is joining us. She is one of our amazing graduate students who, I mean, I feel like graduate student doesn't cover it. She's been instrumental to a lot of the committees that we've had over the years and will be taking over as chair of our scholarship committee this year. So I'll pass it over to Amy to introduce herself.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone who's calling live and who sees this later on. My name is Amy Collinsworth. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm just so happy to be here with you today because this organization and this community means so much to me. So I'm here and I showed up at different places in the organization because I benefited so much and I just believe so much in reciprocity and giving back to things that help you thrive. Um, I am calling in from Boston, Massachusetts, which is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Pawtucket and Massachusetts First Nations, and pay deep respect now and always to the elders, past and present, as well as future generations. I'm here not only as a graduate student, but importantly for me, a scholar practitioner in higher education with many years of experience working in graduate education. I'm a doctoral candidate, and my research focuses on emotions and teaching, and specifically love for folks who are using culturally relevant and sustaining pedagogies. So I share the love with you today, not just in teaching, but in practice. And I'll pass it back to you, Erin.
Ah, love that. And I'm feeling the love today. I appreciate your energy. And last but certainly not least, we have our 2025 President-elect 2026 ASH President, Robin Minthorn. I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Erin. Onde onde baponte and Robin Tape Tahola Menthorn name come. My name is Robin Tape Tahola Menthorn. I'm a citizen of the Kiowa tribe. I'm also a descendant of the Apache, Nez Perce, Umatilla, and Assiniboine nations. And I'm joining you all today from the Wichita and affiliated tribal lands, as well as the Caddo Nation here in Norman, Oklahoma. I am a professor and department chair of educational leadership and policy studies at the University of Oklahoma. And I'm also a coordinator of tribal and indigenous education initiatives for our College of Education as well. But as Erin mentioned, I am the president-elect for ASH, and so I have had the honor to work with Amy as well and others. So really appreciate the opportunity to be in this place and role. I was previously on the ASH board before becoming president-elect, and then also served in KHEP and CEP. And so I've had many opportunities to serve on different committees and serve as a volunteer leader within the organization. So thank you all for joining us today and being interested, hopefully, to also serve and connect and build relations, because that's the important part of our services. We also get to build community within ASH. So I'm really grateful for you all for considering doing that as well.
I appreciate hearing that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I have to very much agree. ASH is a volunteer-led organization, and we could not do any of this without all of you. And so even if you're just considering joining one of our committees, we just really appreciate this chance, because we know that you have plenty of places that you can be putting your time towards. And so considering ASH as one of those spaces just means a lot to, I would say, the four of us who work full time, but I know a lot to all of the other the almost 300 volunteers who put in the time every week to keep this place running. So um, as just a quick agenda, I did want to kind of just talk a little bit about the types of committees that we have, because there are a couple different types. And as you all might have seen, we do have our conference committees that are going to be due a little bit earlier than our standing committees. So talking a little bit about similarities, differences, figuring out what might work best for you and your schedules. And then talking about the interest form just very briefly, and through that kind of clicking through both of the websites that we have set up for those committees, and then asking our guest panelists some questions that we've gotten through the years. And then obviously for the folks who are joining us live, if there are any questions that you have as you are thinking about them, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll also add those to the questions that we have. So what I will say is that I'm really excited about this year. We have made a lot of really positive, I would say very positive changes that will, I think, support all of our volunteers and kind of help share the load a bit. In the past, we've had a lot of the open positions that were available be things that were appointed. And in this case, it is still an appointment, but there wasn't always an open application. So for a long time, it was like, getting your name out there, trying to figure out who to talk to about what in order to get into these spaces. And there's so many things to do and so many people that can help that may not know how to open those doors. And so a couple of years back, Jason had been working on making that a little bit more accessible. And as we've been going year over year, we've been working more and more on that process. And so we have done restructuring with a lot of our standing committees. A lot of that stuff impacts more of our board. But the big things that I wanted to highlight about all of our standing committees is that in the past, it wasn't a requirement to have a graduate student member on our committees, but now almost all of our committees, we do have a graduate student space. So if you are a graduate student and you wanted to say go for a non-graduate student spot, you have the right to do so. But before, it was a little bit harder for graduate students to really break through and get onto some of these committees, but now we have those spots available. As we'll talk about as well, there are varying degrees of committee terms. And so a lot of our committee terms used to be 3 years or 4 years, and that might have been something that didn't necessarily suit everyone. And so now we have some committee members who will do the same job, but will stagger. And so we'll have some positions that'll be 1 or 2 year terms, some that'll be 3 year terms. And so there's a little bit more flexibility and thinking about maybe what you might be able to handle. And so if you're just dipping your toes in and you want to give it a shot with just a 1 year term, that's a possibility with some of our positions, which hasn't been the space before. So we are working hard to make sure that the experience is as seamless as possible, and that we're able to also add in kind of succession building. And our last big change that I wanted to mention is how we talk about our chairs. So for any folks who are listening to this call who might be interested in going into like a level up from maybe a general member and looking at a chair position. Right now, we're moving from just jumping into the chair space to having a chair elect. So doing that for 1 year, becoming a chair for 2 years, and then having that opportunity to really understand the role before you kind of have to get thrown in. So I know that a lot of the times people have concerns about, oh, I don't know if I'm ready, or I'm not sure if I'm concerned. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think with some of these changes, hopefully, if you might be on the fence, this might like tip you over into the space of giving it a try. So that those are some things that I'm really excited about that we will be rolling out this year. So for standing committees, we have what we call our ASH standing committees. And so those will be any committees that we'll have throughout the year. And I will show you the list of those committees that we will be talking about today when we go to the website. We have our conference committee. So that was announced a little earlier. That's comprised of our three committees, local and community engagement, attendee engagement, and the program committee. That is separate. It is technically still a standing committee, but they really focus in on the conference, and the lengths of time are a little different. And so it's a little easier for us to kind of separate those things out. If you are interested in being on a conference committee and being on a standing committee, you can submit for both. There's nothing that says that you cannot. If you want to submit for multiple positions or submit for one or the other, it's kind of up to you and what you feel like you have the bandwidth for. And so there's not really a whole lot of difference, but that is kind of the reason that it is separated out. Um, Other committees that we have that we are not actively looking for people for at this very moment is our entity committees. And so we have all of our councils as well as some new groups that are going to be joining, and we'll be sending out more information actually next month. And so for those councils, they all have committees, nominations committees in different pieces. And those processes are separate. And so you would probably hear more about those opportunities in December, January, February. So kind of keeping your eyes out for that opportunity. But those committees are not going to be the committees that you would see for this particular interest period. Finally, we do have, I would say, kind of this best of the rest of work groups, task forces, and commissions. And those are all at the discretion of the executive director, Jason, and of the president. So if Robin says that there are things that we want a special focus on, then there might be a presidential commission that will do work over a year, or a strategic work group that will do work over a year or 2 years. And so those things kind of pop up as needed. And so if there are those opportunities, we'll make sure to send those out. But again, those are not the ones that we're going to be focusing on during this interest period. One thing that we are trying to do though is, if you say don't feel comfortable, maybe you're a little bit newer, you want to express interest, but you're just not sure, we are adding in questions to your member compass where you can go back in where you have all of your information and just put in, like, I'm interested in volunteer opportunities. These are the types of things that I'm interested in doing, so that we have a log of folks that we can come back to and say, if we have these other opportunities, we can send out targeted emails to you so that you make sure you don't miss those chances. So just keep an eye out for that. But we're really going to be focusing on those standing committees and on those conference committees. Does anyone have any question about the types of committees or any of the committee changes that I have mentioned? Okay, great. Well, if you have questions and they pop up, just let me know or add them in the chat. So as I mentioned, very quickly, I wanted to go through and kind of just click through the website just so you know where everything is. As you can see, this is for our conference committee. It's going to be those three committees that I mentioned on the last page. And it's just going to be ash.ws conference-committee-2026. We try to keep things really simple around here. We also did send out an email just a couple of hours ago, so you should have direct access to this link as well. So it has our 2026 conference committee leadership team, the wonderful, wonderful people that will be supporting the conference for Puerto Rico in 2026. We have all of the descriptions that are open for each of the committees. One thing that we've worked really hard on is making sure that we're being realistic about the time commitments. And so for everything that we have here, we try to make it as realistic as possible as what the time commitment would be for that experience. The one thing that we can't necessarily um, I will say the one thing that might vary a bit is for program committee, just because there are so many different section chairs and so many different opportunities. And we are actually working on staggering cycles for folks. And so we actually think that the time commitment might be a little less than what we have here. But we try to make sure that we make it as realistic as possible so that you can have a full idea of what you might be interested in. So here we have our interest form. We highly recommend that you fill that out as soon as possible, but again, you have about 10 days to fill it out. And then if there's anyone that's watching this that's on the call who has, say, maybe a graduate student or has a colleague that you think would be excellent for one of these positions, you can always nominate someone. Now, this nomination doesn't like move anyone to the front, but what it does is it sends out an email to that person saying, hey, someone says that they think you'd be a great fit for this position. We highly recommend um, that you show your interest. And so it would also send them back to this interest form. So thank you to those who have already done that. I know I've seen a couple of those come through, but definitely something if you have a friend that you're like, oh, I want to be on this committee with my friend, then like maybe send them a little nudge so that they know that someone's believing in them. Um, oh, this is also conference committee. Sorry about that. So we do have our open call for our standing committees, and so that's just going to be 2026-committees. And this was announced today. It'll be open through the end of the month. You have quite a bit of time to kind of look through the positions and see what might be of interest to you. Just so that you know, we have openings on the following committees: Advancement and Fundraising Committee, Awards Committee, the Bobby Wright Dissertation of the Year Committee, the Ethics Committee, our Fellows Committee, which is a very new committee, our Grants Committee, our IEOD Committee, Inclusion, Equity, and Organizational Diversity Committee, our Outstanding Book Award Committee, our Nominations Committee, Position Taking, Professional Development, Publications, Scholarship, and last but not least, Site Selection. So as you can see, we have a lot of positions that are open, and we are highly recommending folks to just kind of put their name out there. The time commitment varies. There are some committees like the nominations committee where most of your work is done in February and March and April, I think. Sorry, not February and March, but 2 months out of the year. You'll get your 10 hours out and then it's done. And then there are going to be some committees where you'll meet once a month for an hour every month. And so that'll be kind of the involvement there. So definitely a wide range of opportunities for folks. So just take a look and see what might work best for your schedule, what would work for best for um, how you work and yeah, see how that goes. I will say one thing that we are launching this week, it'll be in the listserv this week, is a BuzzFeed style quiz that we have about figuring out what will be the best kind of leadership opportunity for you. It's been like a little cute project that we decided to work on. And so it has all of the different options. And so you can fill out a couple of fun questions, and then it'll give you a list of things that might work well for you, and then what the time commitments are for each of those opportunities. And so if you're like, oh, I love all this stuff, I'm really not sure, check out that BuzzFeed quiz in our listserv this Thursday. And even if you know what you want to do, still check out the list, the BuzzFeed quiz. I just think those are so much fun, and we added in some cute little fun questions as well. So, are there any questions so far about anything that I've talked about. I know that I've kind of been yapping, but just wanted to open it up for anyone who might be on the call. Alrighty. So it's at this point that I will actually stop sharing my screen. And we will move over to some of the questions that we have set. So for our committee members that are on the call, I would love to know, I guess we'll start with how you got into being involved within ASH and how you think working on committees throughout your career trajectory has kind of helped you or supported you on your journey.
Just whoever speaks first. Thank you for that great presentation. Again, Amy Collins, or she, her pronouns. I got involved in ASH my first year as a graduate student, a doctoral student, and it just seemed like a way to get to know a few people in an organization that was pretty large, which I didn't fully understand the structure of it. And I'm a staff member, professional staff member working in a leadership and education department with a higher education program. And so as a student also in this higher education program, I had a lot of interest in, other people who care about what happens in these programs and what we decide is important as a profession, and how we talk about things. And anyway, I joined the Council for the Advancement of Higher Education Programs because it seemed to align with my professional interests. And as a graduate student, it was such a cool space to be and feel valued. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a scholar practitioner, and I didn't feel like I was pushed aside. Dr. Van Torn was there, and other folks very established in the field, and I think it was a great place to start because it matched my interests with people who really valued my knowledge, my background, and insights. And from there, I had other opportunities to get connected, not only serving in Council for the Advancement of Higher Education Program Executive Committee for a few years and doing different projects. But I got to co-chair the Wellness Committee that's now a part of the Attendee Engagement Committee, and that was also a really cool place to bring that scholar practitioner lens from around wellness to think about, well, it's like about what we're learning in the conference, but how are we connecting with ourselves? How are we connecting with others? How are we taking care of ourselves and taking care of others? I'm here, I think today, mostly in my role with the scholarship committee. I received a scholarship. I was so grateful from the organization to receive a graduate student scholarship, and then served as a reviewer as part of receiving that award, and then was invited to support this committee. And it's a really exciting time for the scholarship committee because there are many, many more scholarships that are being endowed increasingly for graduate students, particularly around travel to the conference. But there's other opportunities too. I think there's one of the newest, I can't remember the exact name of it, the newest scholarships is also focused on professional development for the folks who are awarded that. And I imagine there will be more opportunities to provide financial accessibility to folks and to recognize the really good and important work that folks are doing, especially at a time, for folks who are focused on equity and justice work and identity-based work, where funding may be limited at institutions. I think our organization and the folks who are funding these opportunities are doing a really important service to our field by offering these opportunities and ways to keep folks engaged who we want at the table. So I'm just happy to be here, and I will continue finding ways to be involved in ASH. That's my closer for that. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Amy, and thanks for all that you have been involved in, Ash. That's amazing. So thank you. And I had to go back and look at my CV because I don't remember everything I've been involved in with Ash. But I think one of the things that I have, the CEP, I think that's where I kind of started my own entry into being involved. When Darren Stewart was the CEP chair, I believe he had asked me to serve on the advisory board that or council that he had initiated within CEP, and so that's kind of how my involvement started with within ASH. And then so I feel like going to CEP meetings, going and being connected there has also then leaded me to feel like I do have a place within ASH. And so then I also became a CEP mentor as well. So I've been a mentor to within CEP for 3 different years. And so, and then I also joined the ASH Values Work Group as well. I've been on the evaluation committee, the ethics committee, also the land acknowledgement working group, which was also started in 2019. And so was also able to lead one of our subgroups there. And then just got involved within ASH in different aspects. And I appreciate, again, that space that's being cultivated within ASH where people feel like they can belong and they have a space. And again, like Aaron, what you were mentioning earlier, that it shouldn't be a hidden way of navigating the organization, so making it transparent and like people all have an opportunity to serve. And so I really appreciate that that's happening right now. And so because for me I was like, well, how do I get involved, because I see all of these different people, but sometimes it's some of the same people, right? And so making sure it's not the same people. And so for me it's just like being connected and making those connections within KHEP and CEP. I really appreciate those connections, because so KHEP was helpful for me as I became a director of a doctoral program in educational leadership. And so for me, that was also helpful. And so I'm, now that I'm in this role now as a president-elect, I've also been able to see how the committees work and how they're filled and how you, find people that you could potentially lead these committees. So I just think there's a place for everybody. I think, that BuzzFeed, I'm excited to see that survey, to see how that comes out, because I think that came from our board meeting, and just y'all making it come to fruition, I think is going to be amazing. So I hope with that, you taking that and you see like where your place is within ASH or a suggested place. I hope that you all can see that you have a place and a space here, because we are what make ASH ASH, right? And so just remembering that it's the people that make ASH, and so you're a part of that. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you both. I really love hearing you all talk and talk about your experiences. So appreciate you both. So for our next question that I have, what advice would you have I would say maybe we'll make this a twofold question. One, what advice would you have for folks who have never volunteered or joined a committee before? And then the second part of that would be for folks who maybe have volunteered before but are wanting to take that next step into, say, maybe a chair position.
Do you want to go first this time, Dr. Winterman?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I would say, like, if you haven't volunteered before, take the BuzzFeed questionnaire and figure out where your pathway is. I think it's always about when are your strengths, and connect those to the committees that are available, but also what is it that you're wanting to learn about and grow in, because I think that's also an opportunity. So if you're not familiar with certain things, then like that's a place where you can like volunteer as a member, right? And so learn about that and see if that's an area, because you will have other people on your committee who have been there for maybe a couple of years or many years, and they can share that leadership experience and those skills with you, and that you can grow in as well. And then I think if you're thinking about becoming a chair, like don't be scared, right? Because one of the things I have learned, thanks to Ash and the amazing staff here, is that Ash is prepared and they are being led by phenomenal staff. And so they always have the answers. And they also have guidebooks that are hidden that you will have access to once you become chair. There's timelines and there's lists of things that you have. And so I think that it takes away that fear, that you're not doing this all by yourself. You have the staff there with you. You have the people on your committee with you. And so don't ever feel like you're by yourself or that you don't belong, because there's always a way of helping you figure things out. So I would say don't be fearful and just do it.
That was awesome. I guess I'll start and say that the staff echo what you said. Repeat it. The the staff are so amazing, and I'm always actually amazed that some of the things I do, I'm like, is that really a volunteer role? Because the staff have done so much. But I would say, like, in my life, I've been involved in different community service organizations and leadership roles, or as a member, and even in my own institution where I've worked or been a student, institutions, I think sometimes service can have a negative connotation. And in this organization, this association, it's actually helped me develop a positive relationship again with service. We're all in it. And, you know, if you have 1 hour, everyone's really grateful for that hour you gave. If you don't have the hour, I think I and many others are grateful that you're taking care of yourself or doing whatever else you got to do. But I think if we're a part of this, in my opinion, you know, we cycle in and out when we can. And so if you want to volunteer and you're new, like, there's a lot of respect and appreciation for you showing up the ways you can. And if you commit to something, please just communicate that you know you can do it. And if you can't, sometimes things change. And I would say for folks who are nervous about the chair role, I had that experience with the conference committee. I was like, wow, this is such a big responsibility. Can I do this in addition to, you know, working on my dissertation and being a staff member? But I was able to do it, and we were in it together. And again, if you want, like Dr. Hinton said, like if you want to develop new skills or you want to exercise the skills that you already have, there's space for you now and in the future. And we all keep it going. It's the collective of us. It's not just the staff. It's not just the volunteers. It's all of us. And there's a deep appreciation for each other. At least I've witnessed.
Thank you both again for your wonderful answers. And I know Brianta and I really appreciate hearing all the nice things you have to say about us. We'll pay y'all later. But no, seriously, couldn't do all this stuff without you all. And so I mean, the appreciation just goes far and wide. And Amy, something that you mentioned about service made me think. So last year we had a presidential service on commission, presidential commission on service, which was a group that I got a chance to work with, and they wrote a really wonderful report on just what the literature says about service and kind of how service is disproportionately given, and how the um, is not necessarily as maybe well respected as other things that you might have going on. But we all know and are probably the product of how important service is to our field. And we have been working really hard after, receiving that report and figuring out ways in which we can continually show our volunteers how much we appreciate our support. And so, if that means formal letters to your dean, if that means, making calls, if that means other types of, bits and pieces, in order to help you further within that trajectory, and to, unfortunately, in academia, kind of the idea of legitimizing things, but like, I'm not going to get into it. You all understand what I mean. But yeah, we just value the service that you all do both in and out of ASH so much. And it was just something that I wanted to comment on and note. And just in case anyone might be interested, that report is on our website if you wanted to read further into that. But that was actually one of the things that we were also considering when reworking our committees, to make sure that people are not feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, and not feeling like there isn't guides or notebooks or things that we can help to kind of support especially when things get a little tough. So thank you both for that. Um, I will I will probably end on this question, and if anyone who's left on the call has another question, they can feel free to throw that in the chat. But I just wanted to end it with if there were any final thoughts that either of you had, just coming from your positions. I know as ASH president, you might have some things you might want to add about things you might be looking for in committee members, particularly folks that'll be working with the conference committee. or if there are just any kind of last thoughts that you want to leave with our group.
I feel like the president election closed it out. I'll just say, it's a it's a beautiful community and we want you here. And whatever that means, if you're volunteering now or in the future, like just keep us in mind. And I think higher education is such a really hard, it's a tough place. It's been a tough place for a long time, right? It's founded in pretty awful ways, but there's spaces of beauty that we can create, I think, within higher education, and education can be a healing, generative, kind place. And I think ASH is a place where we can practice that. And I think volunteering is one way to do that. And it's more than the conference.
Echo all of Amy's words. Totally agree with everything that you said. And I think that there are so many opportunities that I know we're trying to visualize what you are saying, Amy, that ASH is more than a conference. Like ASH, there are so many things going on. You can be involved wherever you want to be involved in, but each thing that you do contributes to the collective of ASH. And so really appreciate that. I think for me going into like the presidential role in November at the end of the conference. So still Ebony's presidency, so I want to acknowledge her as president. But one of the things that I'm looking for is just like us continuing to build on the legacy of the presidents and the legacy of what ASH is. You know, I understand like ASH was one thing and it's building off of that, but also making it better so that we can see and feel all of ourselves in ASH, right? And so making sure that we all feel welcome, making sure that we all feel like this is a relational space for us, that we can build community, and so that you can find a place where you maybe in your home institution you might feel lonely, you might not feel like you're being seen, but here you can feel seen and you can feel heard, and you can find that space of a collective of scholars that are going to support you in your journey. And so I think that's something that you can also find as you're navigating and volunteering within the organization. And so, you know, as Amy said, like this is a space for you, you belong, and we want this to be a healing space for you and not something that creates harm, but something that cultivates love and healing, not only for us as an organization, but for the students and the communities that we work with in our institution. So just thank you so much for considering that as you're looking and viewing this video. So
All right. Well, thank you again both for your wise words. And I again, like I said, I always appreciate hearing from you both, and I really appreciate you all taking time out on a Monday afternoon to share your wisdom with us. And I want to thank everyone for joining us or watching this after the fact, and really hoping that you all will. Put yourself out there and put in an interest form. Um, as mentioned, there will be the BuzzFeed quiz that will come out on Thursday. I will also email that to everyone who was registered for this today. I also wanted to put out my email address. You get a lot of emails from me, so you might have it already, but just in case you don't, erin@ash.ws. If you have any follow-up questions, anything that you might need, please feel free to send those my way and I will answer them to the best of my ability, or I will point you into the direction of Dr. Minthorn, who might have a better answer than I do. So thank you again so much to everyone for being here, and I hope that you all have a great day.